Welcome everybody to our March Power Hour. It doesn't seem like a whole month since we just had one of these, but so much has happened and we're so happy to see all of you. Please continue to introduce yourselves in the chat so that we can see who's here, and let's just get started. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide, please, Bryn. So I'm Lisa Marshall. I am the Program Director of Heat Smart Tompkins, and I'm also on the state leadership team of Mothers Out Front. And I will be your MC tonight, along with other members of the Renewable Heat Now core team. And I'll just go over the agenda real quick. We're going to quickly introduce the Renewable Heat Now campaign for any new folks who are joining us tonight. And if this is the first time you've joined one of our organizing meetings, you're very, very welcome, and we're so happy that you're here. Then we're going to talk about the status of our bill package that is our strategy for this legislative session. Then we're going to take some time to take some action together, some quick actions to keep building our power and our momentum. We're going to do a little chat about following up with reps after we have met with them, our assembly members and senators, and then we're going to have some regional breakout teams to work on some mini strategies with our regional teams, and that'll be it. And then we'll share the link to sign up for the April meeting. So go ahead and to the next slide. Okay. The Renewable Heat Now campaign is a campaign. It's not an organization. It's a collective of many different kinds of advocacy organizations, all working to achieve the goals of a swift, equitable transition off of fossil fuel heating and appliances in our buildings to all efficient, all electric heating and other building appliances, particularly ground source and air source heat pumps. And this is a very adorable picture of our a great rally we had in the Capitol a few years ago, back in the olden days before COVID. You can go to our website to see all the member organizations. Well, why is it important that we electrify buildings? Actually, I think this is, now I will turn this over to Jessica Aguilé from Agree New York to go over a little bit of our campaign and our strategy.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Aguilé. I use she or they pronouns, and I'm with Alliance for a Green Economy. And as Lisa mentioned, we are working to electrify buildings. And that means getting the things that burn, appliances that burn fossil fuels out of the buildings and switching to efficient electric appliances, and then supplying those appliances with renewable electricity. So why is it so important to electrify buildings in New York? 1/3 of New York's greenhouse gas emissions come from our buildings. And most of that is from burning fossil fuels for heating, cooking, and hot water. And so this is a really important sector. It's actually about 2/3 of the fracked gas that we use in New York is burned in buildings. So if we're going to meet our greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals, we have to get fossil fuels out of buildings. We also need to do this for our health. New York leads the nation in premature deaths caused by burning fossil fuels indoors. This creates a lot of indoor air pollution to the extent that it sometimes exceeds the limits for outdoor air pollution. So this is really critical that we get fossil fuels out of buildings and electrify them so we can supply that electricity with renewable energy. Next slide. Okay, so how are we going to do this? The Renewable Heat Now campaign is pushing a very ambitious and aggressive agenda in the legislature this year. We have a whole package of bills that we are trying to move through the legislature. They work together to put the policies and funding in place to electrify buildings. So we're advocating for a $1 billion a year green affordable housing budget to help people make this transition, especially those who can't afford to make the switch today. We are advocating for the All Electric Building Act, which would ban fossil fuels in new construction. We are advocating for advanced building codes, appliance, Equipment Efficiency Standards Act. This is a long title and a very wonky bill, but what it will do is allow us to make our building codes compliant with the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and make sure that our buildings are the codes are being designed to support our emissions goals and get fossil fuels out of buildings, and that we have appliance standards that save us energy, reduce fossil fuel use, and save consumers billions of dollars. We also have the Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act. This bill addresses our gas utilities. So our gas utilities are spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year to hook up new gas customers to the system. And all the utility customers have to foot that bill. And it's driving increased utility rates. And it's also driving increased fossil fuel use. And so this bill would stop that practice, stop the subsidies that we all pay for new gas hookups, and require a planning process for an equitable and affordable transition off of gas in our buildings through the utilities. And last but not least, we have two bills that would support the conversion to geothermal heat pumps, making it more affordable by eliminating the sales tax that people pay for geothermal systems and providing a tax credit when you install a geothermal system. So you can read more about our package on our website. We've got a lot of detail. We've got talking points and bill numbers, and we invite you to check that out if you want to dig into the details. Okay, if you can go to the next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about where we are in the process of passing these bills. So we're in an interesting time in the legislative session. Normally, the way the bill becomes a law is we have to move it through different committees in the Senate and the Assembly, get it to the floor of the Senate and the Assembly and get it voted, get enough votes to pass it, and then the governor would sign it. But there's an opportunity right now. We're in the budget process of New York State, which we have to have a budget by April 1st. And many times legislators and the governor do policy in the budget. So it's an opportunity for us to get a bunch of policies passed during the budget process. And so we've been trying for the first part of the session to get as many of our legislative pieces and our funding into the state budget and get it passed by April 1st. So the governor released her budget in January, and we're expecting versions of the budget from both the Senate and the Assembly any day now. Could come tomorrow, it could come early next week. And we're hoping to see some or all of our bills reflected in those budgets. And then there's going to be a massive 2-week negotiation process where the governor and the Assembly and the Senate will negotiate about what's going to end up in the final budget. And then we will get a budget passed hopefully by April 1st. After that, whatever we don't get into the budget, we'll be working to pass through the normal process until the legislative session ends on June 2nd. So we're in a critical time for the budget, and we're going to be asking you all to take action and keep pushing to get as many of these policies into the state budget as possible. Next slide. So some updates on where we're at with things. So there's a lot of exciting things happening that Lisa is going to tell you about in terms of what our lobby teams have been up to. But as part of the process of building support for these bills in the budget, something that legislators can do is actually pass the bills in committee. And what that does is demonstrate that a bill has support and that it's starting to move through the process, and that sometimes will convince the leadership of the Senate and the Assembly that something should go in the budget. So we're very excited to report that the All Electric Building Act passed in the Housing Committee yesterday. And so in the Senate. And so that shows some momentum and support. It shows that the senators are serious about passing this bill, and hopefully that will help us get it into the budget. And we should know in the next few days if it worked. Next slide. Another bill that's moving and gaining momentum in the Senate is the geothermal tax credit exemption bill. It also passed out of committee this week, I believe, in the Senate. So that's another good sign that, you know, there's momentum behind that bill, and hopefully that will help us get that bill into the budget as well. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Lisa, who's going to talk about how our movement is growing and what you all have been up to and what you've been accomplishing.
Thanks, Jessica, for that great overview. So just thinking back to our town halls we had last year, and then our first strategy meeting we had this year, when we met and nobody yet had scheduled or had a meeting with their legislator, and everybody was feeling a little bit, I think, nervous and excited about how this would go. And that was just a few weeks ago. And now look at us. We have had at least 62 meetings from Rochester to Long Island and everywhere in between with our legislators. And here's some beautiful screenshots of some of all of you meeting with those legislators. So it's really so exciting. And as we see, if you take a look at the spreadsheet that, that your teams have access to, you can start to see, maybe somebody could pop that in the chat actually, all of the bills that people have signed on to. We also have a graphic to show you. Next slide. So here's where we are. We have 33 co-sponsors 33 legislators who have co-sponsored one bill. We have 15 who have co-sponsored 2 of the bills. We have 13 who have co-sponsored 3, 7 who have co-sponsored 4, and 9 who have co-sponsored all 5 bills. So that's those 9 are our Renewable Heat Now champions, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But all in all, that's 175 co-sponsorships and 77 legislators who have co-sponsored at least one bill. So this is really amazing, and all due to your amazing work. These legislators are busy and distracted. Most of them aren't thinking about electrifying buildings, and the only reason that they're signing on and paying attention is because you are forcing them to, which is really exciting and fantastic. And that link, I think, has gone into the chat where you can take a look at the legislators, at your legislators, and see where they are. Later, when we do the breakouts, we're going to be formulating little mini strategies to try to move some of our legislators. And I think we're going to want to focus a lot on these who have signed some bills, but haven't signed all 5 bills yet. So this is a little teaser to think about our strategy going forward. Okay, next slide. So these are our 9 Renewable Heat Now champions, the senators and assembly members who have co-sponsored all 5 of the bills in our bill package. And we have had this little idea to celebrate them, to lift them up, to thank them, and to also make everybody want to be like them. So the idea is that every legislator is going to want us to tweet out a graphic of them that looks just like this. So this is very, very exciting. Okay. Yes, I see that comment from Billy. Look at all this female leadership. Woohoo! It's awesome. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so I am now going to turn over the mic to Amber Ruther. And Amber is going to lead us through a couple of quick actions we can take together. So take it away, Amber.
Hi everyone, I'm Amber Ruther, she, they pronouns with Alliance for Green Economy. And we're just going to take a minute now to send an email to our reps using the link that I just popped in the chat or the bit.ly that Andrea just shared. And that is a letter that will ask your representatives to support specifically the Gas Transition and Affordable Energy Act, which is one of the bills in our package. So if everyone wants to open up that link and fill out your information, please take a few moments to do so. And I would love to also just share some of the history behind this bill and why it's so needed. Basically, I don't know if many of you know this, but right now, every time you pay your utility bill, a portion of that is going towards subsidizing gas expansion. Basically, a portion of it goes towards a subsidy that makes it free for building owners to hook up their buildings to the gas system as long as they are within 100 feet of that system, and that's known as the 100-foot rule. So this bill would end the 100-foot rule, which would force building developers to pay to hook up their building to the gas system, which will hopefully incentivize them to choose more sustainable options like heat pumps instead. And I think another really important aspect of this bill is that it creates a rule for the Public Service Commission that no New Yorker should have to spend more than 6% of their income on energy. And I think this is really important because we've seen fossil fuel prices spiking due to global conflicts, and that problem is likely only going to get worse. We have a crisis of utility debt in the state with over $2 billion right now is owed to utilities, and their rates just keep going up. So it's really, really important for our regulators to take this crisis seriously and make sure that if energy is affordable for everyone. And another great thing about this bill is that it requires the Public Service Commission, which are our utility regulators in New York, to create a real plan, a binding plan to phase out the gas utility system. And that is something that we and other advocates have been asking them to do for years. Hundreds of legislators and hundreds of organizations have told the Public Service Commission, we have to have a plan that is safe and orderly and affordable to phase out these gas pipelines and replace them with renewable heat instead. But the Public Service Commission has largely refused to do that. And they're a 7-person board who are all appointed by the governor. So they're not really accountable to the public. So we really have to basically force them to create this transition plan with this bill. And with this plan, they'll basically be phasing out the oldest and leakiest parts of the gas system and replacing that with renewable heat instead. So yeah, basically, I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to fill out the form yet. Can folks indicate in the chat whether you're done? Or put a thumbs up reaction if you're done sending your letter. The assembly number for this bill is A9329, and it's sponsored by Assemblymember Fahey. Awesome. Looks like a few folks are done. Feel free to personalize the comment if you want to, but also totally not needed. You can just send what is in the template. Great. I think we can move on to the next action. Next slide. And the next action is optional, but if you have a Twitter account, we definitely recommend that you get a Twitter account if you don't have one already. It's a really great way to get legislators' attention if they have especially a lot of constituents tweeting at them. They do pay attention. So we have put together a social media toolkit, which I will share in the chat. And basically, feel free to share this toolkit far and wide. These include tweets about why we need the whole Renewable Heat Now package and why others should get involved in the campaign. And you can just copy and paste these tweets and download the graphics that are in the toolkit and send out your own tweets. So we hope that you'll consider doing that action too, because that does help build awareness and build pressure. All right. And I think that's it. If we want to move on to the next slide.
People can, if you, Amber put the link for the toolkit in the chat. If you can cut it and paste it, or I don't think you can click on it directly, right, Amber? No, you have to cut it and paste it, right?
Yeah, you have to paste the bit.ly here. I'll share the link as well so that you can just click on it.
Great, thanks so much.
And I'll pass it back to Lisa to let folks
Great.
know how they can join a lobby team.
Thanks so much, Amber. You might not think it's important to be on social media and Twitter, which, you know, there's really good reasons for thinking it's not important. But I will say, Twitter is the part of social media that elected officials, their staffers, and the media pay the most attention to. So even if you didn't use your Twitter account for anything else, it's sometimes worthwhile just making one and using it for advocacy purposes such as this. So if you don't have a Twitter account, you could get one and just use it in order to lift up, tweet, and retweet about our climate campaigns that we're all working on together, or any other important advocacy that is important to you. And that bill that we just emailed about, I'll just tell you a quick story, which is, you know, some of us have been involved in rate cases, which is where we sort of fight things out with the utilities about what they're going to do with our money and what they're not going to do with our money, and whether they're going to raise our prices or not. And after speaking at one of the rate case hearings, the law judge from the state pulled me aside and said, you know, we'd like to do what you're asking, but the public service law is written in a way that it doesn't let us do what you're asking us to do. And so you need to get a law passed to reform this law. That's one of the main reasons why that Kruger-Fahey bill is such an important rule, because the rate cases are happening again now. Con Ed is happening, NYSEG is happening, and this is where a lot of our energy policy gets decided. And if that public service law is not reformed, then we're stuck in the same place that we've been for quite a while. Okay. This slide is real quick. If you aren't already a member of one of our lobby teams, you can click the bit.ly link that is, I think, now in the chat, or we can just put it in the chat and then sign up so that you can join the lobby team. That means that the lobby team leaders will get your email address so that they can invite you to meetings, to strategize and to meet with your elected officials. Okay, next slide, please. So now that we've had 61 or 62 or however many lobbying meetings, a question that we've often gotten is, okay, you've got the meeting, you met with your member or with their staffers or both, and they said, well, we'll take a look at this, and this is something that seems important or whatnot. But then the question that we're getting is, well, then what do we do? If they haven't signed on yet, how do we follow up with them? One thing I would say is, before you leave that meeting, try to get a commitment from them about what the follow-up is going to look like, and then follow through with that commitment, whether it's calling or emailing or what that's going to be, whether we need to put them in touch with the bill prime sponsor in order to learn more, whatever it is. But, you know, don't be afraid to be heard, emailing, calling, tweeting at them, I could tell you a great Twitter story about a climate action where a particular elected official was deaf to all meetings and entreaties, but as soon as some students started calling him out on Twitter, he came right to the table and did everything that they wanted. So Twitter can be powerful. And reach out to other people that couldn't join your lobby meeting, but are constituents of that member, and get them to call or email or tweet. And then think about what groups might influence your representative, and see if you can get them to write a memo of support, or call, or to email. Do a little power map. Think about what's important to them, who they've listened to in the past. So these are ways to sort of keep the pressure on. And if you're worried about nagging them, don't be worried. That's their job. They work for you. They hear from people about all kinds of issues every single day, and that's part of the job. So just keep on communicating, and don't be shy. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we are going to go into some breakout rooms with our regional teams and spend a little bit of time in those rooms and pick a target from your region. If you have somebody who's signed on to some of the bills but hasn't yet signed on to the rest of the bills, that might be a really good target, because it shows that they at least are somewhat sympathetic with this campaign. And map out a little strategy to move them. Make a little timeline, set some goals of how many emails, calls, tweets, memos of support, people you want to reach out to try to move that member over the next couple of weeks. So we will cut and paste these bullet points into the chat so that you can see them once you're in your breakout rooms. And how much time do we have for the breakout rooms, Amber?
We'll have around 20 minutes, but we're actually running a little early, so we might have more time if needed.
All right, let's say 20 minutes. I'm going to cut and paste. I'm going to try to cut and paste these bullet points into the chat if that has not already been done.
And Lisa, before we jump into these teams, can you say a little bit more about how teams might want to think about picking their target?
Yes, I thought I did, but I'll say it again. So take a look at the legislators in your region. I think that we can post a spreadsheet, link to the spreadsheet in the chat in case you don't know who has already signed on to what. And choose somebody who has signed on to some but not all of the bills, or who you think might be movable for some reason that because you know something about them. So have a little discussion first amongst your group of which one legislator you might want to target and focus on. And that is going to be probably somebody who you've already met with but hasn't signed on to all our bills yet or become a champion. And then so that's a person that is at least somewhat sympathetic to our cause and might listen to you if you put in some more pressure. It could be somebody who hasn't signed on to any, but at this point, if you've met with them and they haven't signed on to any, they might not be a good target. But your legislators best. So if you have a reason to think, oh, my legislator definitely will sign on, we just need to put more pressure, then you can choose them too. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Lisa. And I saw in the chat somebody noting that their legislator is a champion, but we didn't have them listed. We know that there are a lot of legislators who have said they will sign on to all of the bills, but they don't earn that champion badge until we see them officially on the New York State, Senate, and Assembly websites as co-sponsoring the bills. So we are updating that list about every day at this point. And you can check it out. And if you see your legislator said they were going to do it, but they haven't, you can nag them. They might have said they're going to do it and forgotten, or they might have been in the moment, but still need a push. But we want to make sure that that champion badge, we're not giving credit to them until we see them officially on the bill. And it does take a little bit of time sometimes. So, you know, if you don't see them on the bill the next day, give them a couple of days for things to work through the system. The system has a lag sometimes.
Exactly right, Jessica. I heard from the Rochester team that Jen Lunsford, for example, said she would sign on to all 5, but we haven't made her a champion yet because she's still not on the all electric buildings bill, for example. So that's where we are with that. It would be kind of a faux pas if we put out a champion badge and it turns out they didn't sign on. So we're waiting till we go every day to update the spreadsheet. We look at the official Senate and Assembly website and make sure that that everybody who shows up there is on the spreadsheet. So we're now going to pop into our breakout rooms. If you don't have a team to work with, you could use this time to set up a Twitter account. And some of us will pop around to the different breakout rooms to check on you to see if you need any help or support. And we'll take the next 20 minutes to do this.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a productive time in your group. While we're all face to face here for a second, maybe we can just all wave to each other and say hi. What an unbelievable amount of work you all have been doing. And it's just incredible to see all of these co-sponsors getting on these bills every single day. So just want to thank you all for all of the time that you've been putting into these meetings. And if you haven't joined the lobby team, we hope that you will. This is a mostly volunteer-driven effort, these regional lobby teams. So thank you so much. And we are just going to let you know about some next steps. So again, if you haven't joined a lobby team yet, we've shared a link in the chat earlier. We can probably share it again to get signed up. Once you fill out that form, you'll be connected to the people in your region. You'll be added to a regional lobby team listserv and start to get invited to meetings. You don't have to make a big time commitment to join a lobby team. It doesn't mean you have to come to all the meetings or join all of the lobby visits. But it's really helpful if you can join, even if you can just show up for a meeting here and there, especially with your own legislators. Our next power hour, because we're doing these monthly now, is going to be 7 p.m. on April 6th. We hope that we'll be updating you at that time about what happened in the budget. And you can RSVP now if you want to, if you know you want to come, and we hope that you'll come. I think Andrea just dropped a link to RSVP in the chat. And it says here we're going to be giving a special award to each lobby team. So that will be really fun. Please reach out to other people in your region and invite them to join the next power hour. It's a great way for people to get connected to the work. You can also share the lobby team registration form with them and invite them to join a regional lobby team. Remember to use the social media action toolkit. And I think that is it. Thank you all so much for joining tonight.